All right. Well, we're back for another show, and we've got a great one. We've got a world traveler, not even a traveler. I mean, you've lived all over the world. You've been throughout the country, from Florida. Top 1% of realtors nationwide, owner and broker of Florida Golf and Beaches, and I'm excited to have Karen Lee Wienker with me. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going really well. Given everything that's going on, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Very fortunate.
it is. And I mean, that's why we're doing these through video technology instead of in person to keep everyone safe.
And how lucky are we that we have all of this technology? I mean, a lot of people are feeling distanced from their loved ones, family, friends, social life. 100 years ago, this happened, and people didn't have this.
Yeah,
so we're very fortunate. We're very lucky.
Yeah, and I was managing like a young sales team. A lot of kids like right out of college, so it was like their first job, and they were living away from home, and so COVID hit. These video calls were very helpful in just like keeping them, positive mindset and just staying focused, because it's scary when you don't know, like, especially when at first, everything shut down. It's like, oh, how long? What's this mean? And so the technology, I think, has been great, and it's helping, transform everything. But I want to learn more about your journey, because you've got an awesome background. You live not far from me, we're in the same area. And I'm just fascinated with, people, number one, building businesses, fascinated with real estate. I've recently got my real estate license, and I've always had a fascination with it. And so I'd love to hear more about, where you're from and kind of, your journey.
Okay. Well, I'm Florida born and bred. I was born in Miami, and moved here to Orlando, Central Florida, when I was 13. And that was in 1973. Do the math. I'm 60. And Disney was only 2 years young at the time. And we moved to Dr. Phillips. And at the time, people used to say to my dad, "Dr. Phillips, there's nothing out there. There's never going to be anything out there." And surprise!
I think that's like the center point right now. I mean, that's such a good area. But right. I mean, the growth.
And at the time, Lakeview was a high school, and it was the only high school. So if you can imagine how far I was going, I was being bused from Dr. Phillips all the way up, and Apopka Island Road was a clay road. Wow. And so all bumpy and very hilly, and it was all Minute Maid orange groves everywhere you looked. I would say what I miss most about that time is orange blossom season, because the entire city smelled like orange blossoms. There was nowhere you could go without that perfume wafting through the air. And it was so beautiful. It really was amazing. And now, there's so few orange groves left that, you have to hit a pocket of it,
right?
Get that feeling. And when I do, it brings me right back to the 70s. But yeah, since I've lived all over the world and done a lot of things, and always seem to come back home. So,
Me
I do.
Too. I always come back, even though I'm not from here. This is kind of like, I've moved here and moved away like 2 or 3 times, but I always want to be back here. It's a great spot, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is. People are really nice. The weather is great. And a lot of fun things happening, and it's cool to watch it grow.
At what point did you get involved in real estate? Like, has this been your whole career? Did you just get into it?
No. As a matter of fact, I was an art school girl, and I moved to New York. Actually, I went there when I was 15 for the summer to take classes at Parsons School of Design while I was still in high school, and then made the decision that, yeah, okay, I want to be in fashion design. So I went to Parsons School of Design, and somehow or another, through a friend, ended up on Wall Street. And when and I ended up, I was at the top of my game. I was a risk arbitrage trader, and did extremely well. I was the youngest vice president that Prudential ever had. I think I was 25 years old, and I was a senior VP of investments.
Wow.
Dealing with institutions, high net worth individuals and institutions. And somewhere along the way, I guess in '88, I just kind of felt like, all right, been there,
Get out of this mess.
next.
Yeah.
And I started going out to LA, and I really loved it. And I thought, you know what? Let me just give that a shot. Let me see what it's like living out there. And I moved to Los Angeles, and ended up falling into being a theatrical talent manager. And I counted as, some of my clients like Rodney Dangerfield and people like that. And my business partner, the name of the company is Muse Management. And my business partner, Camilla, her husband is, he's the business manager for Oliver Stone, Mike Figgis, the Farrelly brothers, Peter Farrelly, who just won the Oscar last year for the Green Book. So got plugged in pretty quickly. And then I got married, and my husband was not really, he wasn't from LA, and the husband at the time is now my ex-husband. But he wasn't too keen on LA or that business. And we came out here, and I was traveling back and forth. But when I got pregnant with my son, at 40 years of age, I decided that I did not want to put him with a nanny or in daycare or anything like that. To me, it was going to be imperative for me to find something that I could do with him on my hip, basically. And my grandmother said, "Oh, you should talk to Barbara. She owns her own company, and she was married to my cousin, who was the broker for the company. And she's really one of the grand dames of real estate. And she took me under her wing and mentored me, as she did everybody else in the company. She didn't treat me any differently than anybody else. It used all of my skill sets. I mean, the aesthetics from design, art and design, understanding how space works, so I could look at a vacant home and figure out what it could be, what the potential was, and kind of match it to what my clients were looking for. It used, finance, being on Wall Street. It uses, I'm able to leverage contract negotiations from, street fighting on Wall and Broad, number one. Yeah. And number two, the actual contracts themselves, when I was negotiating with directors and producers and things like that. So I got a real great skill set to put together and amalgamated it. It's perfect for this business. So it was great. And what I thought was going to be a part-time job ended up being like 60 to 80 hours a week.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So at what point was it that, like, from the beginning? I know you just had your son. So did it take a little while for you to kind of build up into that, oh my gosh, this is my life, real estate now? Or was it right away?
So my first year, and this is in 2001, when I had my first year completed, I think I made like 37,000 and change in today's money, it's a little bit more than that. But I was, because I had marketing background too. So I was able to do some things and figure some things out. And I was rookie of the year that year. And then the next couple of years, I did extremely well. I was definitely up at the top, but I ended up being, having 30 million in sales a year.
Wow.
Within a few years.
So how do you do that? So how do you go from zero to that, in a few years? Like, what is the secret sauce so that I can duplicate that? Because I want to do 35 million.
Coffee.
Lots of coffee.
That's the secret sauce for me.
Yeah. Was it like, did you have a big network here? Was it just?
I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a soul. So fortunately for me, Barbara had the internet figured out before anybody else did. The Coldwell bankers, the big companies didn't know how to monetize the internet, and she had it figured out. So, being a smaller company, right? She's, the big boats, they take a long time to turn. But I think her click-through spend was about 10,000 a month, and that worked for her. I think that there were 30 or 50 of us at the max, but probably around 30, 35 typically, and she was generating enough leads, and it was new enough that the internet users were also naive in that they were happy to give their information out to people, and there weren't too many other people to give the information out to.
Right.
But we did do better than everybody else, and I think that it's because we were very responsive very quickly. So as soon as somebody made an inquiry, and Barbara did the vetting and the matchmaking. Right. So if somebody was from Ohio, one of her agents from Ohio got the leads. Right. But we were very responsive, and we were great at working with international people. I brought my mom over, who was licensed before I was, but she was living up in Wisconsin. My dad retired. She moved down, and I brought her onto my team. And she was phenomenal with the Brits. And we loved the marketing thing. And when they arrived, we had a big basket waiting for them with oranges and saltwater taffy. If there were kids, there were coloring books in there, copies of contracts and explaining how things are and how things go, and all of that stuff. And then there was a jar of marmalade. And because we're in Orlando, right? So one of the orange growers over on 27 made up these batches of marmalade for us. And on the marmalade jar was a label with a picture of my mother with one of those big, hats, like the Belmont Stakes hats, juggling oranges. And they started calling her Marmalade Mom or Glamour Granny, alternatively. Our tagline was recolonizing the U.S. one home at a time, which really appealed to our British buyers. So, we did cute little things like that. We held open houses together. Before we had any listings, we'd hold other brokers' homes open, because people who are out there looking at houses and going to open houses, they're buyers. And if they weren't already working with a realtor, one of us stayed at the open house, and then the other one, we had lists of all of the homes that were available to see, and not everything is being held open. So, it's the idea of momentum, right? So somebody's out looking, and you say, oh, you know what? If this house isn't right for you, maybe this one is, and you show them the other house. Would you like to go see it now?
Yeah.
Great
idea. When you, So to get to like the 35 million mark, how many team members did that take?
It was my mother and I and a cousin who handled all of the admin stuff. That was it.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
was it primarily high end homes or was it just volume?
It was everything. We had international buyers who were looking at the time anywhere from 250 up to 2 million. We sold in Reunion. We were the first one of the first agents in Reunion. And then, but we didn't turn our noses up at people because they couldn't afford, more. I think the least expensive home I ever sold was maybe 125,000 in Apopka. Um, it's I think it's as realtors, our preamble states under all is the land. And yes, the land is kind of the subject, but so is all, right? We're as realtors, we are we're encouraged, and it's actually our mandate to make sure that everybody has a fair and equal chance at home ownership. Um, across all barriers. And we are to treat everyone, no matter what their financial, even though finances aren't a protected class, it really kind of is, right? Because there are a lot of people who don't have the resources, but and some oftentimes don't get a fair shake. And so we want to make sure that that we give everybody a fair shake and an opportunity. So we do our research and try to figure out how first-time homeowners can make a go of it too. That being said, I've sold homes in Isleworth, Lake Butler Sound, a lot in Keene's Pointe, Reunion. So, Bella Colina, uh, we're Florida golf and beaches. So that tells you a little bit about us.
And golf and swinging the golf clubs.
Yeah.
There's definitely enough, golf clubs around here. That's for sure.
Well, if you look at our website, when it says about us, the first line is, it's all in the swing. So there it is.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I saw that you also are licensed in California and I think Washington.
Yes.
So are you active in those areas as well? Any other areas?
So my license is I'm a licensed managing broker for Washington State. However, it's inactive at the moment, voluntarily inactive because I'm not working there. My husband's from Seattle. Go Hawks! Okay. And so that was the reason for that. I'm somebody who collects licenses, I guess, and then we've been going back and forth between here and California. My husband is in film and television, and so I got my license in California, and I am active there in terms of the licensure status. I'm not actually working there, but I do have. I'm still affiliated with a broker in Manhattan Beach, so. So this is Orlando is my core, is my hub where I'm working, where I own my company. So this is my focus, but yeah, I can do things there as well.
What do you think is kind of like some of the most important, traits or background experience that would be helpful coming into real estate? So someone new coming in, like what kind of skill set, do you see, is there a trend for successful realtors that kind of all have, X or Y?
Well, certainly there are a lot of people who are successful for whom sales is their the lion's share of their skill set, sales and hustle. But for me, I think that the most important thing is to really care about people, to have a burning desire to help them, and to listen, because if you don't need to know how to sell somebody if you're listening to what they tell you.
Yeah, sometimes it's better just to shut up. You're a
I don't
problem
do a
solver.
lot of shutting up, but I still listen.
I look at it, and one thing I really enjoy doing is problem solving. And I kind of look at this as kind of, you're solving a problem, right?
Right.
You're looking at your client, whether it's a buyer or seller, and solving their problem. They're either looking to buy a house or sell their house. And, I think it's what you said. I love, cause it is, you're helping people. And, my background in sports, it's entertainment. It's, making people have a good time. In insurance, same thing, helping people. So there's some,
Right.
it's rewarding to see that too. I'm sure I haven't sold a house yet, but I'm sure helping a first-time home buyer getting their first house, or just a family, get into, their dream home. It's got to be rewarding just being able to be part of that.
Yeah, and just overcoming problems, and to me, that's the most rewarding part. The most fulfilling thing that's where I feel like I've really got the win. Is when someone doesn't think that they can make it happen, and you make it happen. Right? You
Yeah.
get them everything that they want, and they're just amazed because they didn't think that it was possible. And I've always been about problem solving, whether I was in fashion design on Wall Street, in the entertainment community, or in real estate. Problem solving is a big thing. I like puzzles, so that's been great. And that's kind of led us to another thing. My partners and I, hitting this COVID thing, and of course everything had to shift. And we've sold homes sight unseen now. We do walk through videos of every single home, professionally done, not us with our little camera in the side.
Right.
Oh, here's the kitchen.
Yeah.
But we actually have professional walkthrough videos done. But also, where we have a leg up on all of this is that for a long time, almost everybody still does it. They just put lock boxes on houses when they're listing them, and we don't believe in that. I would never put a lockbox on my house personally, and I'm not going to ask anybody else to do something that I wouldn't do. First of all, you never know who's walking into your house. Yes, they may be a realtor, but a lot of times realtors get a call and say, "Oh, I'd like to see this house. I saw a for sale sign or
Yeah.
something.
Here's the code."
I found you on the." Well, no, they can't give away the code. It's an electronic lockbox, and it's attached to your phone, and you have to have your phone with you to gain access. And then they know who's come and gone. I'm going to tell you a horrifying story. When I was 17 in Miami, because we had gone back and forth between here and Miami, my next door neighbor was a builder, and his girlfriend was a realtor. And one day at about 8:00 at night, we got a knock on the door by the police, and they're looking for her. And they're asking us whether they ever fought or anything like that. Well, as it turns out, somebody called her, wanted to see the house, and she ran right over there and showed them the house, and she was killed.
Wow.
Yeah. So we don't do anything alone. We do, I learned from that, and we do everything in pairs. But also, it's just not safe. You don't know who's walking into that house. And just from a safety standpoint, I wouldn't do that to a client. I wouldn't ask them to put their family or anything like that at risk. But on a more pragmatic sort of thing, when people hire us to sell their home, they're not hiring us to list their home, right? They want us to sell it, and you can't sell it in absentia. Somebody walks into a home that has a lockbox on it. Odds are the blinds are drawn.
Dark.
It's dark.
Yeah.
The air conditioner is not, people are off at work or whatever. And so the AC is maybe up at 78 or something like that. And statistics show cold houses in Florida sell. So we get there early. We turn all the lights on, every single light in the house. We raise the shades. I can't tell you, how many beds we've had to make and more because people leave. They don't know that they're going to have a showing, right?
Right.
We make the home. We do some pre-staging things and stuff like that to make sure that the stage is set. And then we're able to overcome objections and do all of that kind of stuff.
And that's regardless of if it's your buyer or another realtor's buyer, correct?
So no, if it's our buyer, we can't control the listing, and we can't have somebody in advance run to 10 different houses.
No, I mean, for your listing though, if another realtor wants to show it, you guys, you're going to be there.
We're there every time.
And it makes a lot of sense.
Showing. Yeah, because you're not paying us that kind of money to just, do what we call the 4 Ps.
Yeah.
Put a lockbox on the door, put it in the MLS, put a sign in the yard, and pray. Yeah. That's not what you're hiring us to do. Now that has worked for us. Where this is going, besides just, this is the kind of, and I don't care whether it's a $220,000 house or a $2.2 million house. Right. We treat it the same professional photography, the same, we are there for every single showing, thing. This is just how we are. But where it has put us in good stead is that you can't just throw lock boxes on houses anymore and let traffic run through it, because who's going to wipe it down, right? You have homeowners. For instance, we're taking a listing right now for a neighbor of ours who interviewed several realtors. They all use lock boxes. And we were the first ones to say we don't. And they said, that's great, because our son is high risk. He has cystic fibrosis. And we can't just have people traipsing through the house. So we're going to be there. We know to wipe everything down and, and to handle it. We don't want to put our clients at risk. And most agents aren't equipped to do that. It wouldn't even occur to them. I mean,
I love that idea. I mean, it's extra work, but it's that customer service and putting the best foot forward. I remember looking at a house just last year before I moved in my place here, and we walked in the house and
secret sauce.
There was like stuff all over the floor. It's like dirt or something. Like, right. If it was my listing, I would have at least swept that up quick. Like, why? Like,
exactly.
I
said making bed, but what I really meant to say was kicking underwear under the bed.
Yeah. I'm sure that you've seen some crazy stuff on some of these. So
yeah, we have. But it is what it is, and different people have different business models, and they probably make a lot more money than us because they just have a sea of lock boxes, and they're great salespeople. So, they're able to sell their services, and they put lock boxes on all of the houses, and the houses, especially right now, are almost selling themselves. Right.
Yeah.
But that's not who we are.
I think that's a great service to offer. I mean, if I was a home seller, I would be like, wow, okay, you guys do that. It's not extra, is it? I mean, similar fees.
There we might charge a little bit more. Well, in the past, I'd say that we charged a little bit more. Right now, I'd say we're very competitive. There's no, antitrust laws are such that, there's no typical commission, right?
Right, right.
You can't have that. Otherwise, it's an antitrust situation. So I've seen homes that are listed with, $50 co-brokes. They really don't want any, they want to bring the buyer themselves.
Yeah.
All the way up to, 7 to 10% if it's a really hard home to sell or something like that. So there's no, there's no,
But it's competitive, basically. You're
we're very,
still in a competitive market as far as what you're charging, and the service is above and beyond. I mean, I think that it can help take a house to the next level, because there's nothing worse than going in to look at a house as a buyer and it's dark. Like, for me, I hate that. Like, now maybe somebody who likes living in a cave will like that, but like I live in Florida because of the sun. Like, I want the house to be nice and bright, and I want to be able to see outside. So
and the other thing is that there's nobody there to overcome objections or to get feedback.
yeah,
So if somebody comes in, and they're with a buyer's agent and they say to the agent, oh, you know what? I really don't like these countertops. I really want quartz countertops, not granite or whatever it is, right? And the buyer's agent, they don't care whether you buy this house or another house. They just want you to buy one of the 10 or 12 houses that
right.
they're showing you that day, right? And so they leave. Whereas if I'm there, I know that maybe it would cost $5,000 to switch out the countertops to whatever countertops they want. And so I start negotiating. To me, that objection is the first.
Can overcome that.
Right. You can overcome that. And I have a couple of little tricks in my back pocket that, if somebody's not giving me, feedback, and it's part of my job to try to suss them out, right? To try to figure out, are they potentially a candidate to buy this house? And if they are, what are some of the things that we would need to do to make that happen? And is it possible? So I know how to draw that out of them. And if I'm not there, I can't do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, those are some great points. I really like that. And it's a good way to differentiate yourself from, other firms out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we do. And now we're transitioning into another phase of problem solving. We've got a lot of people in our area who are unemployed right now. And even though nationwide, it's not as bad as you might think it would be, in Orlando specifically, even more so than in the rest of the state, I think our unemployment is just, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And specifically because we are so theme park oriented, and then entertainment, and then restaurants, all the restaurants that the tourists frequent. So there's a problem there, right? I mean, these people for right now, a lot of them are, they're not having to pay their rent and not getting evicted yet. Or they're in mortgage forbearances, which, all of that eventually has got to come home to roost.
Yeah.
Now, prices of, their home values, are we going to have a big foreclosure debacle? Probably not, because the home prices are, the equity in their homes it's not like 2007.
Where everybody was upside down.
Right. It's not like that. Now they've got equity and they'll be able to sell their home and still come out, okay. But then where are they going to live? We have that housing shortage, and rentals are going through the roof. So if they sell their house and they're not employed, where the heck are they going to live, right? Where are they going to move their families to? So people are retooling. I mean, I see it in my neighborhood where people are starting to, they're doing like at-home cooking things that they're selling in the neighborhood and stuff like that. They're, they're doing stuff,
Getting
here and
creative.
there. They're doing whatever they can.
Mm.
So I think it's a beautiful time for people to, and a lot of people do, like you, right, are thinking about getting their real estate license for years but never had the time to do it. Well, now they've got nothing but the time to do it.
Right.
And we can provide them. So my partners and I, we decided that because it can be very expensive becoming a realtor. It seems like it's not, because to take the course and the exam and then the test, the state licensing test, it's not that expensive. We're talking about a few $100, maybe $400, including the fingerprinting. But then all of a sudden, the reality smacks you up, that you've got to pay for your board dues, and it costs money. It costs real money to be marketing and doing all this stuff. Facebook is great, but even that, if you don't do Facebook ads, but we figure everybody knows at least one person who's buying or selling a house. And even though, not exactly a sweet phrase, I'm an animal lover, so it pains me to say this, but it's true. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a realtor here in Orlando. But everybody knows at least one person who's looking to buy or sell a house. And that's all you need to really get started, that and some other things. But for the fees, and there are a lot of 100% commission companies out there, but they don't really give you true mentoring. And then there are all these other expenses. So, and they charge monthly fees and that kind of thing. So we came up with a business model where people would never have to, people who are so inclined to get their real estate license, they'd never have to worry about being laid off again, or having to go find another job or something like that. So we've made it so that it really is very painless for them and costs them almost nothing up front. We call it startup to stardom, and we're giving them a customized CRM that would cost them hundreds of dollars a month. That's a customer relations management program that includes funnel campaigns and automatic email things and stuff like that. So you can stay in touch with people without having to actually sit there and hunt and peck and, all kinds of things that you can do. Their own website. We're working on getting them IDX for free as well. And we're paying for all of this. When I say it's for free, it's not free to us. It costs us a lot of money. So because of that, we're being very careful about who we hire, who we take on. We want to make sure that they're truly committed and that they're going to put what's required into it, and that they have a very specific skill set, that they're going to be that they're going to be competent in what they do, because it's not really, sales to me is just listening, right? But there also have to be core competencies, which are learned in terms of real estate. These are huge transactions for absolutely everybody, whether, again, it's a $200,000 home or a $2 million home. This is usually the biggest investment that people make. And so I don't treat that lightly. And I want to make sure that the agents don't treat that lightly either. And, so we teach them those core competencies, and not just negotiations, but what happens when the fit hits the shan, right? When bad stuff happens, how to make it so that your client is not impacted, or that you become the shock absorber, and make sure that it's as, if you protect them up front in the contract, then you don't have to worry about it too much. We also have phenomenal lawyers. Greenspoon Martyr, David Lennox at Greenspoon Martyr is our real estate attorney, and they do all of our closings. And it's really nice to have a lawyer sitting there at closing, just in case something happens. And so those are a lot of the things that we do. And problem solving is everything.
So how would someone that would be interested in maybe becoming a realtor with your organization, how would they find you or apply for this type of position?
Karan at fgbrealty.com and that's Karan. It was a nurse's mistake. It's an Indian man's name, but it stuck. I'm not an Indian man, but but I warmly accept the name. and that, or they can call me, text me, 310-890-8687. And the three of us, the three partners, my mother, Nina Sayad, who actually the way we met Nina was she was at Reunion. She was part of their broker services. Before that, she was with Park Square Homes and Reunion, and her husband was our salesperson at Reunion, and we did a ton of business there. So we were like family. And then when they got married, they had two houses and they chose us to sell their home. We sold a lot of homes for other brokers, I might add.
Nice.
Yeah. And so, and we've been friends ever since. And when I went to California and then came back, I decided to work for a home builder for a little while, for a couple of years. So Nina stepped in as our broker of record. And when I decided, I much prefer owning my own company. I wasn't, I'm not the type of person to say, okay, thanks, it's been nice, ta-ta.
Yeah.
So, we made her a 1/3 partner. So
Right.
It's Gloria, Nina, and myself. And now my son, who was on my hip, and when I started in this business, he's 20 years old last year when he was 19, just before COVID struck. He got his license and he's joined us as well.
Nice.
So, so we're 3 generations of realtors, and Nina, my sister.
Nice. I was talking to my daughter the other day. She's 23, and that's what I told her. I was like, look, this would be, a good opportunity, for you. We could work together. We could, she's, trying to figure out what she wants to do still. So I'm like, hey.
Yeah. And that's really the thing. I mean, what are these kids going to do? Right. And, the Wall Street Journal, I don't know if you read that, put out this whole thing about, college. Yeah, not so much anymore. The colleges have priced themselves out, and people are kind of upset. There's, I think that, there are people who, get their master's degree and they come out, $300,000 to $500,000 in debt,
and the jobs aren't paying that much.
No, they're not. And meanwhile, somebody else who, got out of school and, did a trade school thing or something like that, they're making a lot of money, and same amount of money oftentimes, because, everybody's got a degree now. So how valuable is it, right? The work experience, and also everything's moving so fast. Technology is moving so fast. And I don't care what sector you're in, what industry you're in, things change, and they're changing so quickly. By the time you get out of college, you're already...
Yeah, you're out of it.
Yeah, what you've learned is already obsolete. You're much better off, in my opinion, if you just, did it. And also, a lot of kids don't know what to do.
My son is in high school now, and that's what we started talking to him about. It's like he turns 17 next month, and it's like, look, I didn't go to college. I started my first business when I was 19 and got married at 18. I didn't go traditional. It's not for everyone, but right now I think that, if you don't go, I want you to have a plan. And so with what Leah's my wife, and I are doing is, insurance and real estate. And, like told both of our kids, something to think about. Get your license in insurance, get your license in real estate. There's opportunities there. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. They're not going away. People are going to continue to buy and sell houses. People have to have insurance. And something that you could build. It's, insurance isn't a sexy business, but hey, it's
But
I think
financial stability and independence is very sexy.
exactly. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
and these days you cannot, in my father's time, they counted on the big corporations to take care of them and their pension funds and everything else. And really, what's happened to all of that?
It's
They
gone.
were they were taken for a ride.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get political here, but you just can't trust other people to take care of you. You just can't. Social Security is here today and gone tomorrow. You just never know what's coming down the pike. You have to be able to take care of yourself. And far be it from me. I mean, I went to college, but I'm not doing what I went to college for. It did because it
You need
was
some
art,
skills.
right. Because it was an art school. I did learn how to think very creatively. I will say
Yeah.
that it taught me an abstract way of approaching problems that served me well on Wall Street in the entertainment industry and everything else. And it also introduced me to a segment of society that, as a Miami, Orlando girl, I would never have been introduced to. So I was swimming with the big fishes in New York, and it all came because they were all patrons of the arts. And so I was an art school girl, and they loved that. And then I segued onto Wall Street, and it was a dream come true. So I actually wasn't even a dream come true. I could have never imagined, never dreamt of what was, you know, what the kind of life that I was going to have. So I've been very fortunate and have a lot of gratitude. And yeah, I did go to college. It's a good social building block, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's worth $500,000.
Yeah. It's definitely changing. And, there's definitely a lot. I think you touched on the technology side. I want to go back to one other thing real quick. Back to like this area. What I really do like about it is it's a very diverse area. So, I mean, you've got people from all over the world here. I love that fact for my son who gets to go to school with kids that are from Brazil, from England, like everywhere.
Isn't that
So
great?
how does that play into our local real estate? I would think that that is a big part of, the buyers and sellers locally.
Yeah. So I have a smattering of other languages, eu falo un pouco português and, je parle un petit peu français. I have a little smattering of it, but I'm not competent enough to work with people in other languages and speak fluently enough. So I have people around me who do. My partner speaks Portuguese and Spanish and Italian. We have Brazilians, we have, people who speak a lot of different languages. And that is, we have someone who speaks German, so it's important to be able to serve those different people. I'm on Aura's strategic, global strategic planning committee this year, and I was one of the founding members. It used to be called the International Council. Now it's called the Global Council, and we are focused on all the things that people from other countries, other services, and other things, everything from immigration to how do they get a driver's license, right? Financing is specific to foreign nationals. There are all kinds of laws, FERPTA laws for when they sell their home and withholding stuff. There's a lot to be learned. I was on the one of the directors of the British American Chamber of Commerce. So we align ourselves. And we travel a lot. We do dog and pony shows all over the world too, but we make it a point to learn about their cultures, what's okay to do, what's not okay to do. The book everybody always refers to is Kiss, Bow, and Shake Hands. But there are all kinds of books and information out there about how to make sure that you're not insulting other people. right?
Yeah.
Um,
Big.
Knowing who to introduce first and in what order is a matter of respect. So there's a lot to know and a lot to do. I love the international business because I love diversity. I love people from around the world. I've traveled, and the reason why is because I love it. Right? I was born with wings on my feet, but it really makes sense for somebody to make that part of their business plan if they're willing to do that extra work, because the state of Florida, 15% of all of our home buyers are foreign nationals. They don't live here, and they may want to. And it's kind of incumbent upon us to know enough to know who to refer them to as an immigration attorney and how to help advise them to that end, because oftentimes real estate can be the vehicle for that. But in Orlando, with 15% of the home buyers being internationally based throughout Florida, it's even more so here in Orlando, and yet only 5% of the realtors in Orlando are focused on that business. So the numbers are definitely to your advantage to get involved in that. And joining the local council.
That is good. And I've owned some professional sports teams. And so I've had my fair share of international players. So I need to go back to those guys and say, hey, let's help me out in Brazil. Would you help me out in, right. All over? These guys are from all over, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And who doesn't want to live here?
Yeah.
It's great. That's why you and I keep coming back, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll always come back is the good thing, I guess. But no, the diversity here is great. That's definitely a good point, and it's probably one that gets overlooked. And I would think people probably just don't know how to tackle it. I mean, because you're marketing in another country, and then the languages. So yeah, no, I
there's
think
a lot to know. Foreign currency exchange rates and how to accommodate that. There's a company that we work with called Money Corp. That does the exchanges for our clients. There's a lot to know, a lot of moving parts to that Rubik's Cube, right? Yeah. But if you're a member of the board of realtors, there's a committee called the Global Committee, and usually there are 200 to 300 members. From out of the 14,000 members, 16,000 members for the Board of Realtors, only 200 to 300 end up joining the Global Council.
Wow.
And
missed opportunity.
Huge missed opportunity. It's only $50 a year, right? And even these days when we're not meeting in person, we're holding these Zoom meetings with speakers and people from all over the world. It's a great opportunity to meet them, to learn about their countries and how to market to their countries, how to start building bridges. And I wholeheartedly believe that joining that committee is one of the things that has benefited my business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, I've learned a good bit, just in our short talk. And I really like going back to what you said earlier about how you guys tackle the showings as a group, as a pair, because that was a concern I had with my daughter kind of getting into it at 23. Obviously, I worry about, safety. And even my wife, we talked about, her getting involved, and same thing, just kind of making sure that safety's there. So it's great to hear that, and then just learn the differences. And I think that, I think it's a great idea. So I appreciate your time. People need to go check out fgbrealty.com for Karen's information. You can reach her. Everything will be in the description below. So feel free to reach out to her if you're looking to get into real estate, or if you're looking for a good brokerage to join. But no, it's been great, Karen. I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. This is great. This is my first podcast, so I'm a
You
little.
did good. You see, you don't have to be nervous about anything.
Well, I'm not. Just to give you an idea, back in the '80s when I was on Wall Street, I was doing some traveling between California, and I was staying at the Four Seasons Hotel. And I met some guys or whatever, and they were nice. They were with Financial News Network, and then one day coming down the elevator, we were in the elevator together, and they said, "Oh, we really need, you know so much about Wall Street. You're really great. You really get it." And I looked really good at the time. I was only, in my 20s. But like, we need an anchor for Financial News Network. A female anchor would be great. And I was just like, no way. I'm not getting in front of a camera.
You're a natural.
Not a missed opportunity.
No. Nah, you did good. So thank you again, though. I look forward to, talking more with you, offline. So.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you a lot.